How do you usually respond when a problem lands on your desk unexpectedly? Not those small little problems, but the real big ones. The ones that disrupt your plans, involve people, carry pressure, and need a decision quickly. Do you feel calm? Or do you feel your mind start racing? Because here's what I've noticed. Most leaders don't struggle with solving problems because they lack intelligence. They struggle because pressure changes how they think. And today we're going to talk about something that's super duper powerful, how to solve problems like Jesus. Not reactively, not emotionally, not rushed, but with calm wisdom and strategy, even under pressure. Let's jump in. Do you wish that you could lead your team in a way that honors and glorifies God? Are you struggling to overcome self-doubt as a leader and have a desire to be more confident in your role? Welcome to the Woman of Faith in Leadership podcast. I'm Rika, and for the last decade, I've experienced my fair share of managing challenging employees and teams in middle management leadership roles. I committed my leadership journey to God, and it changed everything. And I'm ready to share everything I've learned with you. Now, if you're ready to lead your team in a way that honors God, grab that notebook and pen, and don't forget your chai latte, and let's dive in. Now, before we go any deeper, if you've noticed that pressure causes you to overthink, second guess yourself, or lose clarity in leadership, I want to point you to something that will really help you. The Imposter Syndrome Blueprint is designed to help you understand what's happening internally in those moments, so you can lead with calm, Christ-centered clarity instead of pressure. You can access it at womanoffaithinleadership.com/blueprint. And then later, if those situations turn into conversations, I'll show you where to get support there too at the end of the episode. Now, here's what most Christian women in leadership experience in these moments. A problem arises, and suddenly everything feels urgent. I don't know about you, but then to me it feels like I don't know where to start, I don't know where to leave, I don't know where to start. It's just like a jumble of things that's all of a sudden happening, and I just don't know what to do. You feel pressure to fix it quickly, pressure to keep everyone happy, pressure to not get it wrong, and pressure to prove to yourself that you can do this. And in your mind, you actually start overthinking, anticipating reactions, trying to solve everything at once. And that's when you start feeling overwhelmed, leadership overwhelm. But instead of clarity, yes, you feel overwhelmed. Not because you're incapable, but because pressure is distorting your thinking. And here's the deeper truth. When pressure rises, many leaders shift from wisdom to reaction. You know that saying where they say you need to be proactive versus reactive? Yes, when you're in pressure moments, you become reactive. But when you look at Jesus and the example that Jesus gives to us, he faced constant pressure, urgent needs, demanding people, complex situations, and conflicting expectations. And yet, he never rushed, he never reacted impulsively, and he never led from panic. He led from a place of peace, clarity, and authority. And that's what we're learning today. Now let's look at some strategy surrounding how you can lead like Jesus and how you can problem solve just like Jesus did. And these are 4 practical shifts that you can make. So, although they're strategic, you have to really go and you have to be strategic about implementing them, if I can say it like that. Because they sound great, but if you're not going to implement them, they're just literally going to sound great. They're not going to be something that you are actually going to benefit by. So the first thing that you need to do is to slow down before you need to solve the problem or the issue or the pressure that's landed on your desk. Okay? Now, slowing down does feel counterintuitive. I get it, because all of a sudden there's a lot of pressure on you. People are expecting an answer of you right now. Because pressure is hurry up, fix it, do something now. But Jesus didn't do that. He often paused. He stepped away, asked questions, and created space. Because clarity doesn't come from rushing. It comes from pausing long enough to think clearly before you act. And before you act, ask yourself the question, what's actually happening here? Why did this just land on my desk? What's the background to all of this? What can I do to understand this situation better? Then, number 2, after you've slowed down, you're going to identify the real problem, not the surface issue. Because a lot of the time when things land on our desk, it is just that. It's a surface issue. Many leadership problems aren't what they first appear to be. Your role as a leader, and this is something that John Maxwell says, is to see before others see. But it also means being able to just dig deeper and to see what is really going on with this situation. Why is it the way it is? So an example of this, for example, could be poor performance or conflict or miscommunication. We see that as the surface problem. But quite often, poor performance, conflict, and miscommunication has a deeper root. It could be that there's unclear expectations. It could be that there's emotional tension. There could be a lack of alignment. Maybe this employee is just not meant for that role. There could be unspoken issues. There could actually be, so many things going on that we just don't know about. But if we're just going to address the surface issue, yes, the surface issue will resolve. But the deeper root issue, that's going to continue causing surface problems. And Jesus, if we look at Jesus again, Jesus didn't just address what was visible. He addressed what was true. So wise leaders ask, what's really going on beneath the surface here? And if you think about Jesus, Jesus really looked into the heart of people. And I'm thinking about maybe the woman who was bleeding. That's the one that comes to mind to me right now. Is she had this problem where she was bleeding for so many years. And she was deemed unclean because she was constantly bleeding. She was even kicked out of her house by her parents. And so when she touched the hem of Jesus' clothes, yes, he did look at the surface problem of, okay, you're bleeding and I need to heal that. That was the surface problem. However, what did Jesus do? He looked into her heart and he said, because of your faith has healed you. First of all, he said, who touched me? Because he could feel the power leaving his body. And the disciples were like, well, Jesus, there's a lot of people around, a lot of people touched you. And he was like, no, there was somebody who touched me. And it was her faith. It was the fact that the burden that she was carrying because of the bleeding. Yes, that was the surface problem. However, the surface problem had so many other deeper issues and deeper connections. And so Jesus looked into her heart, and not only did he heal her physical ailment, but he also healed all the pain that she had carried so many years. And so I want you to have a look as a leader, what's really going on beneath the surface of this issue that's landed on your table. Number 3, separate emotion from decision. You are allowed to feel pressure, and you will in your role. But you don't have to lead from a place of pressure within your heart, within your body, and within your soul. Because what does pressure do? It raises our heartbeat, all right? It raises our blood pressure, and it makes us sweaty. It makes our palms sweaty. There's so many things where pressure can actually take over. Not only from a physical perspective, but from an emotional perspective. And Jesus was surrounded by urgency, emotion, and a lot of tension. But he did not absorb that tension. He stayed grounded. Why? Because he acknowledged what he was feeling, and he did not let that drive his decisions. Now, the one example that I think about is where Jesus went into the marketplace and he lifted up all the tables and he was angry. Now, did he lead from a place of emotion in that space? I think he did. He was angry. He was so angry that people made the house of his father a marketplace. but he had very good reason why he acted the way he did. He also needed to address not only the surface level problem, which was the selling in the marketplace in the house of the Lord, but there were deeper things that needed to be addressed. And the disciples must have thought he'd gone crazy for doing that. But Jesus had his reasons. And so before he even did that, before he got angry, he was calm. He had clarity about what needed to be done. And so this is what we also need, is we need that calm. We cannot absorb other people's emotions and lead from a place of emotion. We need to lead from a place of clarity and being grounded in Christ. And then the fourth one is take the next wise step, not every step at once. Okay, so we often want to see the end result immediately. And so we jump from point A to point Z immediately without following point B, C, D, E, and F and all the other points that we need to follow. So this actually causes overwhelm, trying to solve everything at once, right? But wise leadership is sequential. Jesus often focused on the next conversation, the next decision, the next step. He did not focus on the entire outcome immediately. Yes, Jesus knew that he had to go and die on the cross. That was the outcome, right? But did he focus on dying on the cross immediately? No, he didn't. He focused on the next conversation, the next decision, and the next step. So ask yourself, what is the next wise step here? Not how do I fix this immediately, but what's the next step? Is the next step that you need to ask more questions? Is the next step that you need more clarity about this? Is the next step that you need to interview a couple of people so that you can make a decision here? Do you need to call the leadership meeting? What is the next step that you need to take to help you solve this problem? Now, if you're tired of feeling overwhelmed when problems arise, the imposter syndrome blueprint will help you think clearly under pressure, regulate your emotional response, lead from a place of identity instead of insecurity, and make wise, grounded decisions. Simply go to womenoffaithinleadership.com/blueprint. And if those decisions lead into conversations you're unsure how to navigate, the next step is the difficult conversation script pack, which will support you in that next step. So to grab the script pack, you can go to womenoffaithinleadership.com/conversations. So that's blueprint or conversations at the end of womenoffaithinleadership.com. And you can go and learn more about how those leadership resources can support you in your leadership role. Now, in closing, I want to say you don't need to rush to be effective. You don't need to react to be strong. You don't need to carry the pressure alone. Jesus modeled a different way of leading, a way that is calm, grounded, wise, and spirit-led. And that same wisdom is available to you as well. So you are not behind. You are not failing. You are learning how to lead well. So slow down, seek wisdom, and take only the next possible step. And then after that, you trust that God is guiding you in every single decision. So I really want to pray for you, dear God, that you be with every single female Christian leader on this podcast that's listening right now, and that's not even listening. Help them with their decisions. Help them to make and solve problems like Jesus did. God, you gave Jesus a lot of wisdom, a lot of calm, and a lot of strategic thinking in how he dealt with things. I pray that you will gift that to our leaders as well, so that they can learn to slow down, seek wisdom, and only take the next step that they need to take. And I pray this all in your mighty name. Amen. I look forward to chatting with you again in the next episode, and I hope you have an amazing week. Bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts? It would mean so much to me to read your feedback. Also, it would really bless me big if you shared this episode with a fellow leader who might benefit from hearing today's message. And remember, put on the armor of God daily and walk by faith and not by sight. I'll meet you back on Monday for another episode.